Hello and welcome back to Lightning Law Moments, where we learn law in a flash. Today, we'll be learning all about the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. I think it's fair to say that, like everyone else in Canada, at some point or other, you've heard the term Charter of Rights and Freedoms, but you may not know what the Charter does and how exactly it applies to you. Put simply, the Charter is a set of rights and freedoms that we as Canadians believe are important. So important, in fact, that in 1982 we decided to make these rights a part of our Constitution. We call this being entrenched into the Constitution. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why would it matter if the Charter is entrenched or standalone? What difference does it make? And the answer is a big one. The Constitution is the supreme law of our land. This means that any laws that contradict it are invalid. And if the Charter is a part of that supreme law, well, it also supersedes all other laws that conflict with it. For example, if the Canadian government were to suddenly come up with a law that said all women who work outside the home are guilty of an offense, that would contradict the Charter. And because it's the supreme law of the land, it would kick this ridiculous law right back to Gilead. In legal terms, such a law would be found invalid by our courts. So what exactly does the Charter say? What kinds of rights and freedoms does it give us? Well, the Charter has 52 sections in total, so we can't get through them all today. But the most important parts are fundamental freedoms, democratic rights, mobility rights, legal rights, and equality rights. Let's take a closer look at these sections. First, we have fundamental freedoms, which can be found in Section 2. Here, we find things like freedom of religion, freedom of association and peaceful assembly, and freedom of opinion and expression. For example, the section on peaceful assembly protects our right to gather and peacefully protest. Next, we have democratic rights, which are covered in sections 3 to 5. This is where we find rights having to do with living in a democracy. Section 3, for instance, tells us that every citizen of Canada has the right to vote. Closely related to that are mobility rights found in Section 6. Section 6 tells us that every citizen of Canada has the right to leave and enter Canada. This means, for example, that as a citizen, you can go on vacation for a few weeks or work in Paris for 5 years and then still come back. Next, we have legal rights, which are covered in Sections 7 to 14. These sections are designed to protect us from our own justice system. Here, we have rights such as the right to life and liberty, the right to counsel, aka a lawyer, and the right to be presumed innocent until proven guilty. I might be a little bit biased, but to me, these sections represent the most important of all charter rights. I can't think of anything more precious than the right to just be alive and be free. And last, but certainly not least, we have equality rights found in Section 15, which tells us that we are all equal before and under the law. This means that we all have a right to the equal protection and benefit of the law, despite our race, religion, sex, age, disability, and other related characteristics. As you can see, all of the rights that we talked about are very important, and the fact that we've chosen to protect them and prioritize them over all other laws says a lot about who we are as Canadians. But remember, rights and freedoms are not absolute, and even charter rights come with limits. In fact, before talking about any of the rights that we just discussed, the Charter tells us clearly in Section 1 that rights and freedoms are subject to reasonable limits. What does this mean? Well, my freedom of expression under Section 2B, for example, gives me the right to express my opinions about our government and their policies. The limits on that freedom mean that I can't go around making verbal or physical threats to members of that government just because I don't like them or their policies. Another limit, if you will, is that the rights and freedoms protected by the Charter only protect us against government actions or the actions of those who work for or represent the government, such as police officers. It doesn't protect us against discrimination coming from your average Joe landlord or employer, for example. For that, you turn to human rights codes, which are not as powerful because they're not entrenched in the Constitution. In addition to limits, there are also plenty of rights and freedoms that you might find important but are not covered in the Charter. Can you think of any? This might be a great topic to discuss with your classmates or to write about. Asking important questions like this is the first step towards making meaningful changes in the world around us and making sure that Canada is safe, fair, and equitable for everyone. Well, there you have it. That's our charter in a nutshell. Now that you understand the main ideas, take a closer look at the wording of the charter. Go through each section and see what stands out to you. Then, either with a partner or individually, try to do what I just did with my last example. Pick a section of the charter and try to think of something that you can do in your everyday life that is protected by the rights and freedoms in that section. Then think of something that the same right or freedom doesn't allow you to do. In other words, what is a limit on the activity in your example? You can always go back to my freedom of expression example if you're not sure how to start. And if you're a teacher, feel free to use this free Jamboard to make the activity more interesting. You can find the link in the description below. For more videos and free resources like this one, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and until next time, stay curious and question on.
Created using Powtoon.